Yes, people, what's happening? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another match preview for our Champions League second leg quarterfinal tie against Sporting Lisbon, which will be taking place tomorrow. At the time of recording, it is Tuesday, and this will be out to you guys. You'll be listening to this pre-game, maybe even be listening to this during the game or post-game. But it is CJ, your boy CJ from the Gunners Corner. So welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another match preview. If you don't know so already, of course, please make sure you do like and subscribe to the channel as it really, really does help us out. We appreciate you, all the good work that we're doing on here. And we're hoping that you guys, you make sure you stay tapped in because it's all for you that at the end of the day, it's all the stuff that we're putting out is all for the benefit of the Arsenal community. So make sure you stay tapped in and like and subscribe. Now, there's a couple of things to talk about. Of course, Arteta had his press conference earlier today. Um, and look, I mean, it was a very fiery press conference from him. He looked like a man who was under pressure, in my opinion, just having listened to it and watched him and his reactions and his body movements and his, facial expressions during the press conference. He definitely looks like a man who's under pressure right now. But listen, I mean, we're all human beings at the end of the day, right? Your emotions can get the better of you. And I think that's what's happening to him. He's normally a leveled, measured character in the press conferences and shows a strong poker face. But human beings, right? We can, when we're under pressure, we tend to crack sometimes, or pressure can get the better of all of us. But that's not to say that, that's not an excuse for anything. I mean, we need a performance tomorrow against Sporting. Obviously, we're coming off of a loss of Bournemouth at home, and we need that bounce back result and bounce back performance against Sporting Lisbon. And I'm hoping and praying that we can, get a performance that says enough to get us through, but also to set us up in a good position to play Man City on the weekend in the Premier League, right? Because that's the other big one that we have one eye on at the moment. Let's be honest. So look, man, it's going to be tough. But Arteta obviously did his press conference. The biggest thing that you guys are, here for is wanting to know about the team news, right? That's what we all want to know. And in typical Mikel Arteta fashion, he didn't say much with regards to team news, and he didn't give us too much. On certain players, he mentioned the fact that, we have, like as he always says, we have another training session that we have to wait for. Tomorrow we'll find out more on certain players. Um, and for those obviously wondering, right, the players that were missing from the open training session were Kyle Saka, of course, Jurriën Timber, Calafiori, Martin Odegaard, and Declan Rice was the other big one, right? Now, Declan Rice was one specifically we were asked, or sorry, Arteta was asked about, and Arteta had said, we're gonna have to wait and see essentially on Declan Rice and his fitness and where he's at. He picked up a knock. He obviously didn't want to give anything away in terms of what that is. And, obviously that's frustrating for the fans because sometimes, all we ask for is a little bit of transparency. Right. And at this moment in time where things are a little bit difficult and we're not getting results and where the fans are not happy with the performances, despite what Arteta thinks, the fans not being happy with the performances generally, the little bit you can give us is some transparency on things and just give us some clarity and just make the fans feel a little bit reassured and refreshed. But, you know, acting like you don't know what's going on with Declan Rice is not going to do well for getting the fans on side. Declan has an injury, and we don't have to wait till tomorrow to find out what he is. At least give us a little bit of something ahead of time to work with here, right? Of course, maybe Declan Rice can be available tomorrow, based on an extra training session or an extra day's rest. However, fans would still need to know and like to know what's going on and what the injury is. We didn't even get that at all. Arteta didn't want to say. So listen, I think, he's still keeping cards close to his chest, which is his prerogative. But again, fans need more transparency. If you want the fans to really and truly be on side, especially at a time where we're calling for unity and things are difficult for the fans, you got to give us a little bit more of something. Well, one thing he was transparent on is the likes of Bukayo Saka. He mentioned that Saka does have an Achilles issue, and this was an injury. I think he mentioned that was picked up before even the Carabao Cup final. We know in previous seasons Saka has been nursing an Achilles injury of some sort. He's had Achilles injuries in the past, and that's worrying to me because Achilles injuries are some of the more serious injuries in football generally. Obviously, if you really do some bad damage to that, it can keep you out for, up to a year sometimes, and it's really, really difficult to recover from. So I'm hoping that Saka is not in that position. But again, considering the fact that it is Achilles again, something that he's had to contend with in the past, that is really concerning to me. Really, really concerning to me. And I hope, you know, even if it means we sit him out for this one, that we can have Saka in some capacity for City and for the run-in. Because despite his poor form, Saka's one of our been our best players over the years, and we still need him. He can still produce moments, right? But again, he was asked about Saka and Timber and their potential availability, which Arteta did say, there is a chance that one of the two could be available. I'm paraphrasing, but he did mention that, maybe one of them can be available out of Saka and Timber, which is crucial for our right-hand flank, right? So it sounds like by the sounds of things, I'm going to guess and think that that's Timber who could be available because, Saka, again, an Achilles injury, knowing City is there on Sunday, I think, maybe he might opt to rest Saka. So if he is saying, giving us a little bit of something and saying maybe one of the two could be available, I'm gonna assume maybe that Timber is more in contention than Saka, but let's see how that one goes. And then yeah, I guess we'll have to see on the rest with regards to Calafiori and Odegaard. Those two are concerns for me, but I'll talk about those another day, or another video because injury-prone players, man, we're just carrying certain guys at the moment. And whilst they're good players, Calafiori and Odegaard, when they're fit and available, again, how often are they fit and available as of lately? With massive concern for me. So, anyways, everything else, I mean, look, his general comments in the press conference, what I mean by the fact that he seems like and sounds like a man who is under a lot of pressure, a manager's under serious pressure when they start bringing up, what they've done up to this point and they start talking about their CV, which ironically enough, there is not much on Arteta's CV. But, you know, when he's asked about pressure and he's asked about the fan in the Stamford Bridge game, Chelsea City, the fan famously who held up the bottle, the Arsenal bottle, and drank from the Arsenal bottle. He's been asked about these sort of things, right? And whether or not we're really dealing with a lot of pressure and his emotions at the moment. And he said, of course, that he's on fire, right? He's trying to insinuate that there's no fear, there's no pressure, there's no worries really at this moment in time. All it is pure, fire in his belly, right? The things that he likes to say, fire and passion, and he's looking to grasp and seize the opportunity, which is right, which is what he should say, right? But however, certain comments that you make, right, when he's leaning on the fact and saying, where he's he's brought us to this point, he's worked so hard to bring us to this point, and Arsenal has a chance to go to the semifinals, back to back, the first thing, something we haven't done in our 100+ year history, talking about, all this hard work to be in a position in April to be in a title race still and be in the Champions League, quarterfinal with a chance to go to the semis, talking about the fact that, we're no longer being congratulated for making the Champions League, right? Because I think mathematically we've already qualified for next year's Champions League. So he did, with a bit of cheek, mention the fact that, we've already, qualified for the Champions League for next season, but nobody's congratulated him and us on that, which he's basically what he's saying is, it goes to show the state that we're in and the position that we're in now, that, once upon a time, our remit and our goal was to just qualify for the Champions League, and that would have been, celebratory, and that would have been congratulated. But now, we're in a title race. And yes, there's a bit of pressure, after losing on the weekend. And yes, we're in the Champions League quarterfinals, but it seems like turmoil with, losses in three of our last four games in all competitions. He's trying to shed light and talk about the positives of, nobody's thanked me or nobody has, congratulated me essentially or congratulated the club, for making the Champions League. At the very minimum, so from here on out, is that the expectation for the next 20 years, and this is sort of, set with a question mark, right? The expectation now is that Arsenal is just going to be in the Champions League for the next however many years. Um, I mean, what I have to say to that is, again, as a manager, when you start talking about what you've done so far and trying to give yourselves many pats on the back for where you brought the club and where the club was before you came in versus where they are now, which is essentially some of the things that he's saying in the presser, you know, you're almost setting the tone that, if we do not get over the line once again, there's silver linings in that, you brought us so far and that we're doing so well at the moment that, if we don't get over the line, you have to look at the positives and you have to look at it, we're at least competing. And, but when you came in, right, 6 years on with the money that's been spent, 1 billion spent, you're not now at the point where you should reflect happily on, look how far we've come. Now it's time to get over the line. You can't keep celebrating, nearly getting there. You have to actually get there now. We're at that point, right? The most Arteta truthful people who are Arteta in and, you know, wanting this guy to succeed, which we all want him to succeed, mind you, but the ones who have really been Arteta truthers from day one, even those people are going to start, getting a little bit fed up and impatient because how long are we going to keep doing this where you nearly get there and we keep celebrating nearly? It can't just be nearly every season, right? At some point, you got to get over the line, and we can't keep talking about how far the club has come. Well, no. Let's talk about and let's actually get there and then celebrate that. We've celebrated and we've given flowers to how far Arsenal has come since Arteta's been here, but that we can't keep using that. That's going to wash out every season if we don't get over the line, right? So the time is now, and I'm hoping and I'm praying that Arteta, he's a new manager, relatively, he's still gaining the experience. Don't fall into those traps of just starting to talk about you know oh, well, look how far we've come. This is something we haven't done. Getting to the Champions League semifinal, we haven't done that in our back to back, right? We haven't done that in our 100+ year history. Yes, that's all well and good, but I mean, big clubs like Barcelona, Real Madrid, who operate on a different level, that to them is standard. You should be getting to those levels of the competition every year, year in, year out. Nothing to keep, celebrating or bringing up or talking about. So you got to just keep it moving until you finally get over the line. Jose Mourinho, when he was a man under pressure and he was looking like he was on his way out, I think when he was at Manchester United, I believe it was. Um, I believe it was Manchester United. Yes, 2018 it was when he mentioned famously in the press conference, when he's asking for respect, and he kept saying, "I've won three Premier League titles, three Premier League titles." You guys remember that? Three Premier League titles. He kept saying he won in the press conference. So he demands and asks for respect because he has three Premier League titles, which he's won in the past. So you're leaning on your history and you're leaning on your CV and what you've done when you're a man really, really under pressure, and that's what Arteta is doing a little bit right now, and it's almost again using that sort of comfort blanket of if we don't get over the line, it's okay, because, we've done so well up to this point, and I praise the players for where we've gotten to so far, and I'm giving myself a pat on the back for where I've come so far and what I've done so far with this club, considering where they were before I came in. It's not okay. Yes, it can be appreciated, but now it's no longer at the point where it's going to be celebrated. It's what's going to be celebrated is you getting us over the line, not nearly getting us over the line. So that's where we're at. And Arteta needs to, start focusing on what's to come. And when you're asked about these things in the press conferences and talking about, when you're asked about pressure and, what's at stake for Arsenal Football Club, you know, make sure, we're not leaning on what we've done up to this point because there's still ways to go. The job's not finished. As Kobe Bryant famously said once upon a time, rest in peace, God rest his soul. So, look, the fans, we're going to play our part, but that's not an excuse. The fans' nerves should not, go on to the manager and onto the players. Players got to go out and do a job. They're professionals. They're earning millions and millions of pounds a week. Um, Listen, the fans have every right to be nervous and every right to be anxious, but we're going to support the best as we can, but it's on the manager and on the players to deliver. They're in the hot seat and it's time to get the job done, and we need a bounce back performance against Sporting Lisbon. Um, Lineup now. Let's just get straight into the lineup. What we think is going to happen in this game. I'm going to predict based on again the limited information that we have right now because there could be more team news coming out tomorrow pre-match. Let's see what happens. But based on what we have right now, I'm going to gamble and I'm going to say Raya. Well, not that's not our gamble, is it? Raya is definitely going to start. I'll get to the gamble, which is in the back four. But as far as goalkeeper, Raya starts. No questions asked. Keep it moving. I think that one is quite obvious. Here's where the gamble is in trying to predict the back four. Now, like I said, he mentioned in the press conference that one of maybe Timber and Saka are going to be available. I assume that's going to be Timber just based on the little information that we have. The fact that Saka's got an Achilles injury, the fact that we have City on the weekend. I think maybe Yuri and Timber is the closer of the two, and I think that's the one that he's referring to that might be available for tomorrow. However, I don't think Timber's going to start. I think if anything, Timber's going to be on the bench. So now it's a matter of who starts at right back, White or Mascara. White has had a bit of a stinker in the last few games. Defensively, he hasn't looked like himself. He's been switched off, been caught ball watching a couple times. So will the manager opt to go with Ben White? I'm tempted to play Christian Mascara. I've gambled in the past recently and predicted 11s and saying that he's going to play Mascara from the start just because I want him to because we should I think we should see that. Um, I would actually love to see that, to be honest with you, from a defensive standpoint. We're in a decent position. We're winning the tie. Sporting have to come out at us, so I think we want a little bit of defensive solidity. Again, for the fact that White has been a little bit shaky recently, I think we're going to start with Christian Mascara. Again, I'm going to speak into existence. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I kind of want to see that. I think we're going to start with Christian Mascara at right back. Obviously, we don't know Timber's fitness status, and Ben White has been a bit poor defensively recently. So I think Christian Mascara will get the nod for this game. I could be wrong, but I'm also saying that more on hope as well. I hope he does get the nod. Center back Saliba and Gabriel goes without saying, must win game tomorrow, and we need to keep that defensive solidity, especially going into the Etihad. Give us a bit of our spine, our strength is our center backs, or part of our strength is our center back. So I think the two of them will start in there. I think we're going to see Hincapié come in at left back. He's been fully fit. He's been in training, Hincapié, and especially if Calafiori's being, his shaky fitness status at the moment, means that he's not around Calafiori. I think Hincapié is going to get a start because I also maybe expect that Hincapié is going to start on the weekend against Man City. Considering Calafiori's unknown injury status, so Hincapié will start at left back. I think tomorrow get a decent back four in there, get us some shape and solidarity, get back to defending the basics, right? Defending better because we've looked so poor and open defensively lately. So yeah, Hincapié at left back for me. In midfield, Zubimendi. We need a bounce back performance from him. He's not been the greatest of late. But yeah, look, we got to play him back into form. He's an important player for us. So Zubimendi for me starts in that midfield role. I think alongside him, we're gonna see Declan Rice at least from the start. I think Deckers will start, to be honest with you, just because I think he's been rested. I think as a precaution, that's why we didn't see him in training, in my opinion. But I think he will start tomorrow's game, and I think he's gonna have to probably come off at some point to get a rest. But Declan Rice is gonna start alongside him in midfield. I think he'll be available. Eze will start as to make up the third of the midfield options, or our attacking midfield position. Odegaard's status is unknown. But Eberechi is obviously more than capable, being fully fit now, finally, thankfully, to come in there and deal with that position, no problem for us. He was pretty much the put in a man of the match performance against Leverkusen in the round of 16 Emirates tie. So I think he'll make a big difference for this game as well. And we'll need to get him in form in case we have to play City, or when we play City at the weekend, as they could potentially have to start that one depending on Odegaard's status. So I think Eze starts tomorrow. On the wings, I think Martinelli's gonna. Hmm, I think Martinelli will start. I'm gonna gamble and say Martinelli will start. Champions League, he performs better. I do think that, and he had a good, he had a brilliant assist on the weekend. Sorry, not on the weekend, in the first leg against Sporting in Portugal. So I think Martinelli will get the nod from the left. Gyökeres, I think, will start up top. And to be honest with you, I think Nani Madueke is going to start on the right. We don't like that front three, but in Europe, could perform better for us. It could be different for us especially when they leave spaces in behind for us because we need a goal. Sorry, or because they need a goal, and we need to catch them maybe on the break. Those spaces in behind for our off-ball runners like a Madueke, a Gyökeres, and Martinelli. That could work out for us. So I do think that'll be the front three. I don't want to see that in the Premier League again, but for this specific game, when they're going to be chasing the game and where they're going to be coming at us more, I think a front three of Madueke, Gyökeres, and Martinelli could be effective. And that's what I think we're going to have to go with because Saka is not going to be available. I'm almost certain that he won't start tomorrow, at least Saka. So that's what we're going to have to go with. So again, 1 to 11, Raya at the back in goal, Gabby and Saliba center backs, Mascara right back, and Cape left back, Zubimendi, Rice, Eze in midfield, front three, Madueke, Martinelli, and Gyökeres. Let me know what you guys think. As usual, right? Get in the comments. Give me your predicted 11s. All I know is we need a bounce back performance and we need a win tomorrow. It is absolutely mandatory to get to the semifinals and give us a bit of a good feel good factor prior to the game at the Etihad on the weekend. So Mikel Arteta, the players, get locked in, get the job done, use that fire that you say that you have in your belly or you're on fire and all this, this PR stuff. Use it, you know, use it, give us something to be proud of, right? Let's put our words into the actions and go out and perform on the pitch and give us a result and a win that we can stay with chest that we're going to go into the Etihad in some sort of form and give us something to believe in. Because right now the fans are all down and dejected. So look, let's get back to winning ways. Come on, the Arsenal, and let's get to the semifinals of the Champions League. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like and subscribe and hype the video. It really, really does help us out. This has been CJ from the Gunners Corner, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.